So yeah, without taking more time, I'll very quickly jump on to sharing the insights, and during those insights, I will take some examples from what we've learned from our volunteers, speakers, leaders, who have shared their knowledge. And after my presentation, we'll invite them one by one on stage and try to go deep into what they've shared so far with us. Leveraging gamification and incentives to drive community engagement. So what we're trying to understand here is, how do you pick some of the gamification principles and apply that to community building? So all of us would have already seen gamification in terms of various products that are being built, but we want to take our knowledge to a different level, where we don't only want to see gamification being implemented in products but also in communities. So let me very quickly share my own experience. So before LikeMinds, I used to run this company called Curofy, which was essentially a community platform for doctors. So we had about 50% of Indian doctors using it, primarily to discuss patient cases with each other. Now in that, we used to have different elements of gamification, which was driving engagement in the community. So first one was the leaderboard that we had, where based on any content that the doctors would share on the platform, primarily it was cases being shared. So any case being shared on the platform, other doctors had the ability to mark that case as helpful. And then there were other things like my answer on a case could also be marked as helpful, and we had gamified it based on whether my answer gets highlighted as the top answer, we would add additional points to that. Now based on those points, we had created these different layers or different titles. So if you see right now, this user's level is 5 based on the score, and there were other levels like key opinion leader, influencer, and we used to nudge people to to get more points to reach to the next level. So this is one example of gamification, how you could actually, and I'm sure a lot of you would have thought about it, this is the most, I would say, simplest form of gamification, which is to add certain points based on certain logic and cumulatively assign rewards or titles for it. Now the next one is, if you see here, we also did last week top doctors. Now what that meant was, not only we did gamification to drive engagement at a cumulative level, but also to drive engagement on a weekly basis. So this was an additional incentive to someone who has, let's say, just begun and is actually showing high velocity of contribution. That could, things like these could actually incentivize them to contribute in the community. And then once someone would achieve a milestone, let's say within the week they earned a certain number of points, we would actually ask them to share these things both in their private, let's say, circles of WhatsApp groups and so on, or public social platforms. So this is one way how we did gamification, and there were a lot of other elements that we had, like we would assign things like, let's say, cardiologist of the month, and we would actually give that title along with the name, or a badge along with the name, so that incentivized people to actually contribute regularly. So yeah, that's a bit about what we did at Curofy in terms of gamification for creating more engagement in the community. Now quickly moving to some of the other ways to drive community engagement via gamification. I think one thing is very, very important, that you have to apply game mechanics with your end users' interests. So even in the example that I shared with Curofy, the core use case of the app or of the community was to actually share knowledge with each other. Now it was a positive behavior that we actually enforced or enabled in the community by enabling points. We also had a way to penalize if someone was let's say sharing a junk full content. So the answers were, for example, you could actually downvote an answer very similar to how it works with Quora. And honestly, we took a lot of principles and inspiration from Quora in those days. So you need to think of what are the right behavior that you want to promote in the community. The next one is to keep your business goals in mind, especially if you are actually investing into productizing your community. So if you're building your own community platform, or if you're building your own custom community within your app, you really need to think of business goals before even starting to sort of invest into that. The next one is, you motivate people with rewards and competition. We'll deep dive into it. But think of how can someone feel good, after achieving something in the product or in the community. And then use things like leaderboards, badges, challenges to incentivize engagement. Now, highlighting this, how or why you need to focus on creating a business value while designing the gamification principles in your product, in your community. So Atul, who is one of the volunteer leaders today, who will share more on this, actually highlighted this in our earlier conversation, that they helped Udemy to actually gamify a leaderboard which was built on different filters. They had like different micro leaderboards in a way, and they actually gave badges and titles for participating in them. Now this whole thing they were measuring, and they actually helped the organization Udemy to increase the number of solved questions, percentage of solved questions by more than 100%. So it's always important to measure as well as think of what to measure when you're designing any gamification in your community. Now, some of the gamification tactics that we've seen in different communities, and they are like on the face of it, they look like any other product gamification tactic, but we wanted to highlight some of these gamification which are community led. So for example, you could have quests and challenges. So this is the first screenshot is from Duolingo, where they are actually they've created a sort of quest for two people to do it together, and there are 30 lessons, and this is like 3 lessons done between the two of them. So this is one way where you can actually create quests and progression between smaller micro communities or groups within your larger community. The other way, which is very common, is giving badges. Like I was highlighting, top cardiologist for, let's say, January 2023 being done in Curify. TripAdvisor does it really nicely, where they actually reward their creators who would review things well on the platform. And it's not like just one type of badge. They have created like different types of badges based on different types of activities. So each of these badges is like a leaderboard. So if you see here, level 4 being one of the levels on just being a hotel expert. So you could do things like these. You could give badges to people and not have just one level like we had at Curify. You could have like different levels and award badges for each leaderboard in itself. The other one is simple, very similar to what we did at Curify. So you could have a leaderboard and points being given, and you could have things like leaderboard for a specific time duration like we did at Curify, versus you could have a leaderboard at different geography levels. Always have these micro leaderboards as well, so that people are incentivized to cross the 0 to 1 hurdle in their early days. Then you could also have things like public recognition being rewarded. So for example, This is Reddit, where they're allowing users to actually give certain. So this is a gold award, which is right now, as you see here, which like 2 awards have been given on answering something. So this is also very interesting, where people can actually give recognition and rewards to each other within the community. Now, of course, this requires productization at some level, but the productization is very, very focused on engaging community and enabling community engagement. So these are not like single person gamifications. These are multi-person or community-led gamifications that are done, which is what we are discussing today. Now, one of the other tactic that works really well in a lot of cases is daily check-ins. So, Ritu, who has run communities with Next Leap, Lakshmi, Baby Chakra, she actually highlighted this very interesting case study where at Lakshmi, they introduced this 66,000 challenge. So Lakshmi is a fintech app focused on women-led, like they want women to invest, and they're very, very focused on women. So what they did was they had this challenge where on a specific year from, let's say January 1st to December 31st, every day they would give a random number between 1 to 365, and the community had to do savings with that number. And I'll have Ritu comment on it after the presentation in more detail. But what that did was a lot of their users actually started doing that, and not just doing that, but it created a positive behavior change in them, which was very, very aligned to the use case of the overall product that Lakshmi is building. So yeah, we'll deep dive more into it with Ritu, but this is also very, very powerful strategy. The other thing that is interesting is, you could allow some kind of social proof via leaderboards, and it doesn't need to be a very, very like technically done through a product, but it could be done very simply, like, in a Facebook group, you could actually, give points based on certain activities, and you can actually count that. Facebook also allows that, and I'm sure there are tools on top of Discord and Slack that allows that. So Vineet actually highlighted one of his experience as part of a member in a Facebook group where he actually was appreciated. He felt appreciated by being part of, one of the top 10 contributors, and he actually contributed for 6-7 months regularly because he felt validated with his expertise around it. So because these kind of validations in social are very, very powerful, it is a very interesting way to create leaderboards around it. The other interesting tactic that you could use is, you could enable smaller teams to compete with each other. So that makes it, a mix of competition and collaboration, which is very, very healthy. So you could have collaborative leaderboards, you could have partner programs, like people could become buddies. You could have milestones which teams can achieve together. You can have, basic group discussions and forums enabled between those specific teams, and you could give joint rewards and recognition to them. So, you could, even if you're productizing it or just sharing it in the community manually, you could actually share scores of teams, which makes it very, very interesting. One example of this was shared by Vamsi in our earlier conversation. Vamsi is also here. We'll deep dive more into it. But what they did at one of their communities was they literally created a point system, which was very, very comprehensive, which had a lot of tasks being given to the teams, and there were things like quizzes, and they actually manually tracked all the point system in an Excel file, and they gave visibility to that to the whole file to everyone in the community, and that actually helped them with a lot of engagement in the community. So we'll deep dive a little more into it with Vamsi. The other thing which Ritu shared, on this topic was something that I found very catchy. She called it collaborate to compete. So the principle is very similar, that you collaborate together and compete in the larger community. And it actually helped them a lot. The things that they gave as rewards in this was also very, very interesting. So they didn't give monetary rewards in most cases, or even swags. Like their rewards were heavier on social proofs, opportunity to meet CXOs or even meet celebrities, things like those. Now, when you're designing any gamification in your community, there are different types of gamification, progression systems, and these are just few examples. There are a lot of other principles as well, but these are few examples we thought we could highlight, for the interest of this event. So you could have experience points, any kind of positive behavior, and you can add levels on it. So like what we did at Curify. You can also have quest-based progression, like the example I showed where two people were together learning few lessons on Duolingo. So you would create a quest for them, they would complete the quest, then you would create another quest for them, they would complete the quest, and so on. Now the next one is you could have achievement-based progressions, where it happens on LinkedIn, where you have these skills which you can write on LinkedIn, but the other people on LinkedIn actually can recommend you for that skill, and it increases the number of recommendations that are written along with that skill. So for example, if you're a community builder and you write that as a skill, and let's say 50 people on LinkedIn recommend you for that skill, it shows community builder 50. So that's also very, very interesting. Now, there are a few other examples which we've learned in last few days from some of the community builders. One example that Vamsi shared, with one of his earlier NGO community that they were building, which was called Make a Difference. So they had rewards like social spotlight, giving interesting titles like top donors. I think top donors, and top fundraiser, and they actually created like city-based, again, an Excel file where they would highlight points for each person and add it up and show how much points each city has gained, and how much fund each city has done. So that was also a very interesting example of creating a progressive leaderboard, and creating sort of the principle of collaborate to compete within the community. Now, Minank also shared a very, very interesting example around creating leaderboards, but not for their members, but this was a leaderboard that they created for their volunteers, and there was a transparency within the team around how, let's say, certain points were awarded to volunteers based on their activity, and that actually helped the volunteers to really work a lot. They also gave these volunteers social recognition, and again ability to get access to certain people, which generally these people would love to have. So the takeaway for me here is not only think of leaderboards for your members, but think of leaderboards for different stakeholders, including, let's say, volunteers in your community. Now, just this last couple of minutes, there are various kind of rewards and incentives that you can give for each game that the community plays. It could be in terms of shout outs. You could literally create very interesting hashtags. You could enable people to meet specific people, whether it is founders in, let's say, community where people would love to meet the team which is behind the product, or generally micro celebrities or macro celebrities depending on your community's interest. You could make these people face of the community. You could give credits of a product. So let's say if you're a SaaS company, you could actually give credits to your members who are, let's say, winning whatever game that you are enabling them to play in the community. So yeah, these are a few examples. Minank, who used to run community at PitchGround, again a SaaS product. So actually a marketplace, I think B2B. So what they did was multiple things, and but very interestingly, the rewards were designed for the based on the interest of the community. So one example which I found specifically very interesting was at PitchGround, they had this power user program where even in the power users, they would reward some of the top contributors by giving them free access of subscription of their product. So that was very interesting. And what I heard from Minank was the order was, more than lakh, per month kind of, potential savings that they offer to these people. You could give like interesting point-based systems being created not only in your community but also on social media. I would deep dive with Minank on this. This was also very, very interesting that you could not just do basic things like rewarding someone on, let's say, based on number of likes on Facebook or LinkedIn, but you could do a lot more around commenting, DMing, and some of those things. And there are tools which actually help you do that. So we'll deep dive with this on Minank. So let me quickly start with Ritu. Ritu, can I have Ritu on stage? Thank you so much, Ritu, for sharing some of these insights in our earlier catch-up. I want to specifically deep dive with you on 2-3 things. One, take us through what was the thought process behind that daily check-in challenge that you created in Lakshmi.
Yeah.
If someone wants to apply something similar in their community, what are some of the things that they should keep in the mind before even committing to something like this?
Yeah. I think that was one hell of an interesting, construct that we designed. And I'm quite excited to talk about it also because of a bunch of learnings. Very specifically, so at Lakshmi, we were very clear we didn't want to build out so we already had an existing app for women to come and invest into. But the reason we created a community-led approach to the entire business is because we realized women don't invest on their own because it's not normal in their head, the mindset, even though they're earning and they're financially independent. We had research data to talk about it also. So we said, hey, actually getting women to invest money is going to come in much later in their journey. But firstly, and then they said, we have to educate them, we have to inform them. And we were like, no, wait, before that, can we just normalize money conversations for women? So the whole idea was, can we get women together and get them to just start talking about money? Because women do talk about money, but not openly or confidently. And in the process, community conversations would build up the whole education and the content piece for them, help them make informed choices. And all this while, our teams kept saying, hey, let's bring the community onto the app because we have an app. We would want folks to be there. And we said, we still haven't tested a use case for the community to be really there on the product itself. So I also come from the school of thought that, listen, let's be where our members potentially are rather than trying to keep getting them onto our particular product. So while this community happened, conversations were happening, great. But if I have to move them to my app, it may seem like a vanity metric, but at the end of the day, all of us measure monthly active users. Now, to get to a monthly active user number, you start with a weekly active number. And of course, that by default will be your daily active user number, right? And we wondered that, listen, money is not something that a woman would talk about every day, which means we don't have a daily use case for anybody to be on the app. Now, this was a discussion which actually took place with our product team. And we said, there is no use case to build a community on the app. Think of it from a product perspective, because tomorrow this metric becomes the community team's KPI. And I don't want wrong KPIs for my team at any point of time. A lot of brainstorming went to it. And then one fine day we said, okay, let's test out something. It's basic math. For 365 days, because that's the number of days in a year. Every day, if you save any number between 1 and 365, it could be 222, it could be 2 rupees, it could be 17 rupees. So any number within that range, just save it. Forget the interest. On 31st December, you will have saved 66,785 rupees without doing anything at all. And we said this is a classic DAU use case for us. So we kickstarted a 66K challenge in the community on the Facebook group itself. Every day we would have a creative which would get posted, which would just call out that number. Now what happened? Suddenly, this was the most simplest friction-free thing for a woman to do. All she had to do was probably make a note of those numbers, and she would transfer it at the end of the week or fortnight or month, or she would actually save that money. And we told her, don't save it as cash, save it in your savings account, create a new account for it, right? And the next thing we know, within 24 hours, guys, we had 104% increase in our member base. We shot up like this insanely. Engagement went through the roof. Why? Because women wanted to get other friends, family, sisters, mothers, everybody to come in and join this community, because this is where the numbers were being called for. This is where they could learn how to save their money. And even then, we did not speak about this becoming a habit for them. We only said save 66K, right? We got a lot of feedback from people. A lot of women said, hey, you know what? A lot of my bhabis and my sisters and my friends are not on Facebook for whatever reason. We've created family WhatsApp groups and friend WhatsApp groups. So any number that you share here, I take a screenshot and I put it on the WhatsApp group, and all of us are doing it as a family also. There were women who said, you know what, 66K is too small a number for me personally. I'm going to multiply this by 100 every time or by 10 every time. We said, that's your call, totally. We did this consistently. At the end of every week, we would put out a reminder that the last 7 days, these were the 7 numbers that were called for. So as of today, you should have saved these many numbers, money. What also happened in the process is women missed out on numbers or posts, which was bound to happen because nobody's going to visit my community every day. As soon as she would ask a question, there would be 30 other women telling her, this is what you missed out day before yesterday or yesterday, which meant the community started helping each other, precisely what we, where we wanted to get to. This kept on happening. And then we realized that we started seeing drop-offs. Obviously, you do anything new, you're going to have like 100 people joining in, 200 people joining in. We had 700 people joining in, right? But obviously after 30 days, we started seeing that, okay, the number of reactions, number of comments was dropping off. We as a policy in my teams, we have this whole habit of getting onto user calls every month, no matter what, you get onto calls. And we realized a lot of women are coming into the group, but not reacting, but saving. But a lot of them were losing interest on it. So this was the time to bring in the next level of gamification. We had members volunteering to give us numbers. So that was one way of getting back the interest. Then we started doing leaderboards for them. And then we started speaking about it as a habit. At the end of the year, we realized women did build a habit. We did have a DAU use case. And think of it this way, right? While I was running this experiment, we were not just thinking from a product perspective, but also from a product marketing perspective. Can I send out daily notifications to my users with a number, which means it's not spam for them. It's a number which is important to them. And that challenge continues till date in different forms and versions. But so this was gamification for us. But our purpose was very clear. One, we were testing out a hypothesis if there is a daily use case for the product. Is there a use case for sending out a daily notification? More importantly, the call to action for us was, can we build a habit of savings and talking about money? And for us, that was achieved by this very simple act of the 66K challenge. It also worked for us, guys, because we were not incentivizing them with anything. It worked for us because there was a lot of self-motivation and intent that we tapped into this entire process. We would get these women to come and do lives with us and talk about their experience of doing this with us, right? So it was, at the end of the day, they could see the tangibility of it, that this is going to benefit me. So this gamification worked in this format for us. So yeah.
Very interesting, Ritu. Thanks for sharing in such detail. I also quickly want to sort of spend some time on. I think you mentioned in our earlier conversation gamification for positive behavioral change versus negative behavioral change. Can you substantiate on that a little bit?
Sure. So 66K was definitely an example of encouraging positive behavior, right? Because see, there are two things that you can look at. One, you want to incentivize certain behaviors, you want to encourage certain behaviors, and hence you're gamifying something, right? The reason why you have leaderboards for people who answer questions, the reason we have upvotes, you're trying to get people to do qualitative engagement in a community. But at the same time, there could be certain behaviors you want folks to avoid. I'll just go back one step. You shared one of your slides earlier in the deck, which was Trip Collective, if I believe, right? There are badges being given if you share photographs of the location.
TripAdvisor. Yeah.
TripAdvisor. The idea is for every single action that you think is important on your product or on your community, those are all positive reinforcements, and hence those very gamifications work. Now, with respect to negative gamification, right? Think of it this way. What is the behavior that you don't want in your community? Do you not want people to spam? Do you not want people to, post at random hours? Is there a gamification around it? Because let's be very honest, FOMO only works to a certain extent. Threats only work to a certain extent. At the end of the day, you have to start appealing to people's good side of life and trust them that you've got to keep showing that side of the behavior, validation for them. So that's why the whole theory is that let's ignore the bad behaviors and let's highlight and spotlight the positive behaviors so strongly that becomes the conversation itself. So it's out of sight, it's out of mind. Instead of saying, guys, don't spam, just keep highlighting folks who don't spam. The spammer eventually will realize this is not working out, So yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that I could recall from this, like I was highlighting, Quora is download, right? So which is also to sort of, to discourage sort of the behavior that they don't want in the product.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that, so I'll tell you what, this particular thing also comes out in the collaborate to compete feature. When you're working in a team, and I'm sure we'll touch upon it much later, right? When you're working upon a team, and if you as a team member don't participate, it starts reflecting on the leaderboard. That also discourages folks from not participating then.
Cool. So Atul, has been designing gamification, features and products, for various global players. Including one of the case studies that he shared with us was with Udemy. Atul, I want to know, you highlighted the payback value to the business to Udemy, that example of 102% increase in, percentage of questions being solved. Can you walk us through the process of like what happened there? Like, were they initially clear with the requirement that, they want the percentage of questions to be solved as the metric to be moved? Like, how did that emerge? Can you take us through that?
Yeah, sure, Nipun. Thank you. So to do that, I emphasize what actually Ritu said. So belongingness is the key. So if they feel belonging in the community, so they are going to participate, and the numbers will grow automatically. So let me just share my screen if it's okay.
Yeah.
I hope you can see my screen now.
Yes.
Yeah. So numbers are the key, right? So just after launching there's I'm going through the numbers first, and then I'll let you know that how they emerge actually. So the post view in the percentage within the launch of the gamification first 2 months was increased by 13%, and the post views were in millions actually. So 13% was a huge number here. So all the views you can see, the post views, board views, and blog views increased by a huge number. And you will see the replies also, it increased. Those are also in the thousands. So it was a huge impact. And as you asked that what is the reason of being, the emerging of these numbers. So let's see, this is kind of a model which is telling you that what is your current rank, okay, and what is your next rank in the gamification order. And what Ritu was saying, when they are doing something, activity, maybe they are posting, they are viewing a board, replying to anyone, or accepting a solution. So their rank or their data is on the front end and everything is visible to them right away. So if they are going to accept a solution, this number will decrease. So this is the thing which we introduced in that particular gamification you are referring to. So let's say if you need to move to analytical ACE and the accepted solutions need to be 5. And there are lots of people who are, accepted solutions is the thing that you are answering people and they are accepting your solution as the marked solved question, so solved answer or solved solution. So once you are doing that, you are making your efforts much more and you are tracking your answers in the community and going there, asking people if it is helpful, please accept it as a solution, marked solution, as you can see on Stack Overflow as well. So they are when they are seeing their target, the next target, what they need to achieve. So this is the thing which is kind of giving them a sense of competition, because in the leaderboard as well, they can see that who's already analytical ACE, who are the most top users this week, who were data doctors. So where am I right now? So what is my percentage of current progress of gamification? So these are the things which actually increases these numbers. So the current, to achieve next rank, which is whatever the rank is, this is 17%. And if you'll do these, you will just view 143 boards and start 7 discussions in the community. This will be 100% and you will be analytical ACE or whatever the rank name is. And one more thing, as Ritu said, the belongingness to the community. So we have done a gamification in one of our customer, which makes a wearable brand. So they make wearable watches, bands, and we have done theme-based gamification for them. So let's say I'm a runner. So when I'm coming to community, the first question in a model or somewhere in their profile, we ask them, what is your main activity? Are you a runner? Are you a swimmer? Or what kind of activity you do with our wearable? Or what kind of activity you track with our wearable? So based on their data, we gave them, as you can see, these are the ranks name and these are their badge, rank icons. So we gave them the customized names and icons. So for example, swimmers get 10 ranks based on their activity. Runner will get the different activities. So based on these, they will feel again the belongingness because their names, rank names or badge names as per their activities. So all these things and showing them the target, the next target will emerge this whole data actually.
Got it. Very interesting, Atul. Quick follow-up question on this. So, did you reverse engineer some of these things where the company, let's say, came saying, we want to increase these behaviors in the community, and then you designed the game based on that? Is that how it works?
Yes, absolutely. So most of actually the domain I'm working for in the gamification, most of the communities doesn't have gamification already. So we always need to pitch them. It's kind of insurance in India. So people don't buy it, you need to sell it. So gamification is a key in my domain, which we need to sell. So we go there, we pitch them that do this gamification, this are the benefits of this.
Got it.
So this is kind of
understood. Cool, awesome. Thanks, Atul, for sharing your insights. Let me quickly move on to our next volunteer leader. Yeah. So quickly, I want to understand from you, the design of that fundraiser leaderboard. First of all, that you had created at that time, and how it actually motivated, the members in different cities. What were probably, again, 2-3 learnings that you had, let's say, if you had to implement something like this again, and I know you are already doing it at Masters Union, but I want to know what are, let's say, 2-3 patterns that you picked from there and you're applying here at Masters Union?
So to begin with, the inspiration came from we have a bigger dashboard with Power BI, which Make a Difference has created to the tech team over there. So it has much more extensive data that goes with each vertical, each chapter of the city, each volunteer, each community, or each groups and subgroups. So from that, what we did is we created an Excel sheet. We used to manage regional managers of 23 cities, and our problem statement was to raise a good amount of money. Actually, 12 lakhs or more is what we raised in 2 days, and we wanted to hit a certain target. So in these 2 days, we wanted to ensure that everyone's active. So we used to share collaterals, activities, prompts, mobilize the community so the managers can also mobilize their internal communities and there. And so we created this Excel sheet. There's a lot of data involved. I really wanted to showcase the leaderboard. Sadly, due to financial numbers over there, I can't showcase it over here. But so me and Wagman, my dear friend, we went through the sheets and we extracted the data from the Power BI dashboard and realized what formulas can we use, played along with Excel for hours and hours and figure out a way where we, as I guess Ritu mentioned before, that there was live movement of cells over here where they can track. So similarly, we couldn't do that much with not much tech power and bandwidth, but a refresh of every 2 hours or 3 hours, you could see a movement and change in Excel data because there were much larger numbers to crunch with over a 3,000 volunteer base, I would say, and more. Wow. 3,000 plus, I would say. And my learnings from there was that ensuring that everyone knows that their action is coming to fruition. And one of the incentive here was Give India was also doing a matching grant with the organization that if we hit this X amount, they will also give 50% from their end. So here we're working towards children nearing care and protection. So the volunteers are motivated. We're just boosting and helping them to figure out their own way to raise funds. And this helped us understand what engages the volunteers. How can you track engagement and how can you show them whatever efforts they're putting in is coming to fruition? And the learnings that I extracted from here and applying to Masters Union at the moment is right now I handle 4 domains over here: HR, applied finance, UX, and product. So what we did is we did a design challenge. So in design challenge, we created we handled multiple Zoom calls where we brought all the members onto a Zoom call, explained them what the challenge is, how they can contribute. They had a designathon challenge where they need to create an e-commerce checkout, sign in, landing page, and much more. So here we used to track their progress. We asked them submissions and all. Then based upon that, there were other people who were also giving their feedback over here. We made an internal dashboard. Like I guess Ritu mentioned, dashboards are meant to be external but not internal. I'm going to take that point. I'm going to put it outside. A lot of manual effort because I handle all the communities on WhatsApp, but still I would go for it. And based upon that, we got a lurker to active engagement conversion rate to 65%.
Wow.
A lot of people submitted their checkout pages, be it anything, be it a normal landing page, be it a sign up page, login page, and much more extensively. We rewarded the winner with a design setup entirely from mouse, desktop stand, and much more. Similarly, we did a fitness challenge with our comma community. This was a 4-task 7-day fitness challenge. People are not too much inclined towards fitness nowadays. Here also we did like you need to do certain push-ups, share your recording, share your Strava app screenshot, share your iOS fitness app screenshot. People started sharing. Here what I did is follow the strategy of cold engagement. Cold engagement is nothing but having active members, your Sherpas in the community who can help you gain traction for messages, who can mobilize the community with very cold messages over here. So they started sharing and people started to share. People started to cook healthy meals. People started to cycle. People started to do a time-lapse video of their workouts and share in the community. This encouraged people to take part in the challenge. Even people who used to join daily, when they see someone share the post saying #GetFitChallenge, they were curious and they wanted to participate in that too. So this led again where people are mobilized towards engagement through community member-to-member participation, through member-to-member engagement.
So thank you so much, guys, for attending, and I look forward to see some of the names that I'm seeing often now in our next event as well. We have a couple of very interesting events lined up. Not finalized the dates yet, but one is around application of AI in community building, and second one is around community success. As a metric that people can drive via community. So if you know someone, let us know. We would love to reach out to them and invite them to these events and share their learnings with you.